Hello, everyone, and welcome to Networks Live On Demand, a Blue Star Families program that provides personal and professional development opportunities for military spouses, no matter where you live. My name is Ashley Hayes, and I am the Senior Manager of Strategy and Operations for Community Development and Programs at Blue Star Families. And Liz Jones is also on the line. She's our Blue Star Families Careers Coordinator, and she's the one waving. And she is the amazing military spouse who manages this wonderful program. So we are pleased to have you this evening, and so let's get started. First, I'm going to just go over some Zoom webinar information and housekeeping items. If you downloaded Zoom this evening for the first time, you won't have to do it again for any of the other Networks Live On Demand webinars that you attend. In the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you should have a bar that says Audio Settings, Q&A, Chat, and Raise Hand. For this webinar, we are going to compile the questions and answer them at the end. So if you have a question for our guest tonight, type it in the Q&A box or in the chat, and either Liz or I will read it aloud at the end so that Brie can answer. As always, if you want to reach out to our team directly after the webinar, Liz can be reached at careers@bluestarfam.org. Our presenter today is Brie Reynolds. She is the Senior Career Specialist at FlexJobs, the award-winning site for remote work, flexible schedule, and freelance job listings. With a master's degree in human resources and a background in career advising, Brie has over 13 years experience working with job seekers, employers, and she offers career, hiring, and work-life balance advice through FlexJobs blog and media outlets like Forbes and NBC News. So without further ado, Brie, take it away.
Hi, thank you guys. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Liz. I'm so happy to be here tonight. If you hear any background noise, my neighbor decided to mow their lawn at 7:30 at night, so sorry about that, but hopefully it won't be too loud. It's one of those weird things that happens when you work from home. Everybody decides to mow their lawn as soon as you're supposed to be doing something important where people will be listening to you. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight. If you see me kind of switching my head back and forth, I've got one monitor with the PowerPoint up and then one where I'm looking at the participant list and the video and all that. So you know, my camera's over here and the PowerPoint's there. So that's why I keep jotting to the side. But yeah, I'm really excited. What we're going to be talking about tonight are flexible and remote jobs, basically jobs that go with you as military spouses when you are moving all over the place and not always able to take work to the places that you're moving or take a job from one place to another. We're going to talk about the market for jobs that actually would be able to go with you. So really excited to talk about that. I do also work from home. I've worked from home since 2010 or 2009, so quite a while. And I've moved a lot in that time. So I understand what it's like to be wondering what you're going to do in the next city and what you're going to work on and all of that kind of stuff. And I went from New Jersey to Atlanta to Dallas, and now I'm in Boston. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully I'm not going anywhere else, but you never know. But it is really comforting to find a job or some kind of career, if it's freelance or remote job or whatever it might be, that actually goes with you to all those places. So yeah, so let's get started. Come on, PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, so just a little bit about me and FlexJobs before we dive into all the content. FlexJobs, as Ashley said, is a job search service. We list telecommuting, flexible schedule, freelance, and part-time jobs. Essentially anything that takes you outside of a traditional 9-to-5 in-office job. That's really what we're trying to avoid. So all the jobs on the site offer some kind of flexibility. And then as far as myself goes, I don't know why I have my picture circled there because you can all see me on the screen, but I'm the Senior Career Specialist at FlexJobs. And so what that means is I do things like this. I try to educate professionals and job seekers about the flexible job market, what we're seeing in terms of trends, and also job search tips. Before this, I was a college career advisor for about 5 years, and I love working with people to do resumes and cover letters and mock interviews and all that fun stuff. So this is the way that I get to do that kind of virtually and still help people, but do so from a home office. So I really love it, and I'm happy to be here. Okay, so first let's define what a flexible job is. I know I just mentioned the types of jobs that are on FlexJobs, And that kind of generally is what we look at in terms of flexible jobs. So we look at scheduling, whether a job can offer some kind of flexible scheduling where you're in charge of your hours, or an alternative schedule where you're not working, strict 9 to 5 office hours. Maybe you can work a few hours in the morning and then do like a later at night shift after the kids are in bed or something like that. We consider anything that's kind of flexible and not very routine in the same hours every single day to be flexible. And then for location, of course, telecommuting and remote, which we're going to focus pretty heavily on here today, because I think that's one of the easiest ways, whether you're talking about employee-based jobs or freelance jobs, if you can find a remote position doing some kind of work that can travel with you, that's really the easiest way to move your career around. So the next one is status, whether you're freelance or employee. So we think freelance jobs are pretty flexible inherently because you control a lot of what you do, the projects you're working on, the clients you're working for. They also come with a lot more responsibility in terms of keeping track of your bookkeeping and taxes and all of that fun stuff, but they do offer a lot of flexibility. And not only just in the day-to-day kind of schedule and hours that you're working, but also seasonally and yearly. If you know that you've got a big move coming up or just something that's going to disrupt your regular day-to-day schedule, you can plan ahead to not take as many clients in that time and to kind of, either take on extra clients now or wait until you're done with whatever that big event might be. So we think that's pretty flexible in terms of people who aren't really sure what their life is going to look like any given month or year. And then the hours that you work, of course, can be flexible. So we look at both full-time and part-time jobs as potentially flexible. If a full-time job has some other type of flexible component, so telecommuting or flexible hours, we think that could be flexible. And then part-time jobs we think are inherently flexible because of the reduced hours. And just a quick note about part-time jobs, one of the things people don't often realize is that it can be a huge range of hours. So I've seen part-time jobs that are listed for 5 to 10 hours a week, and I've seen part-time jobs that are listed for 30 to 39 hours a week, like anything under that 40 mark. So it's one of those things where a lot of times people think part-time is 20 hours a week, but that's more of like a half-time position when you're looking at job listings, and part-time could be a pretty wide range. So that's just something to keep in mind. But the bottom line, as the slide says, anything that's outside of a traditional 9 to 5 in-office job is something that you might be able to do flexibly. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to touch on specifically the most common remote job titles that we see. So when I say remote or telecommuting or work from home or virtual, I kind of use those all interchangeably. They basically mean the same thing, and every company seems to describe this way of working differently. So it's good to use a variety of keywords when you're searching, and I'll talk about some of the really good ones to use in another slide. But for remote jobs, these are the common job titles that we see. So at FlexJobs, we have this team of job researchers, and they go out and look for jobs that are flexible. And so they're scanning jobs all day long, and I ask them, can you create a list of the job titles that you see over and over again for remote jobs in particular? And so we took into account kind of the variations that you could see on these. So there's like sales representative, that it can be said in a number of different ways, but we kind of put it all into the sales rep one. So we see that one a lot, obviously, up at number 1. But there is a wide variety of stuff that you can do from home for work. So most of the jobs listed here are professional level jobs. They require some experience or certain education, or are just more than what you might think of as like a remote job where you're doing some of the stereotypical stuff that you hear about working remotely, which oftentimes can actually be scams, which we'll also talk about. So here you can see there are actual professional level legitimate job postings that offer this way of working, that let you work from home. And so I always put this up just to give an idea of the variety of work that can be done when you're working from home, and also maybe to get your wheels turning as far as what you could possibly do. So even if you've had maybe one type of career, or you've had a few different types of careers, and either way, if you're not quite sure what's out there for you for remote work, you might be looking at this list and going, oh, I never thought about that as a remote job. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could find a job that travels with me in that line of work. So just to get your brain kind of churning with these different ideas, it's a pretty good list. Some of the skills that we see employers looking for, so when you're thinking about putting together resumes and cover letters and really putting yourself out there for positions, these are the skills that over and over again employers are telling us they want in remote workers. And so communication skills are huge. So doing a webinar like this is actually a really good example, because if you understand Zoom, if you've ever used something like that or something similar like Google Hangouts or GoToWebinar or any of the kinds of screen sharing, video sharing, meeting type platforms out there, that's a great way to communicate. And you should put that in your LinkedIn profiles, on your resumes, all that kind of stuff, because that's how remote teams communicate, as a lot of times just like this. Luckily, my team does not use video a whole lot, so that's really nice, because it would be so weird to be on video all day long, but this is nice, just a little bit. So that's a big one, communication skills, both in verbal, hi Liz, verbal and in writing. And then self-management and the ability to focus. And I have a feeling we have a couple military spouses on our team at FlexJobs, and one of them is on the content team, which is where I am, and I've worked really closely with her for about 4 years now. And I've never seen someone be able to manage and focus better than her. It's like she can juggle more things than I can even think about. So I have a feeling you probably are looking at this and going, oh yeah, I got that. So those skills are huge. Being able to really focus your attention on what needs to get done at a specific time when you're working versus what needs to get done for personal life and home type stuff. And then being able to keep yourself focused, because there isn't always a manager who's going to be sitting there, you know, watching you and kind of giving you that feeling that you need to be working. And then to go along with that, time management and task management, it's all kind of part of the same self-management, you know, ability to keep yourself on track, because you really are kind of the first line manager when you have a remote job. Even if you're an employee and you have an actual manager that you're reporting to, if you're working mostly alone most of the day, you are responsible for getting yourself in gear and getting your work done. And then this one, proactive questions and not being afraid to speak up. This is a really big one, because one of the pain points that remote teams often feel is that miscommunication when something isn't clear, but nobody really says anything, because you don't often see people's facial expressions or see them like struggling over something at their desk. You only know that they were unclear about it when it's too late and the project's already done or they've already submitted whatever. So being able to really speak up and say, you know what, I'm not clear about that, or let me just make sure that I'm doing the right thing, or can you answer this question for me? And just not being afraid of that sort of thing is really key. So that's a big one. And then comfort with technology and the ability to troubleshoot, at least on a basic level, technology sort of stuff, because you are also not only your first line manager, but you're your first line help desk person. So when something goes wrong, there isn't always somebody to call and say, hey, you know, my computer isn't doing X, Y, and Z. What do I do? So that's a really big one, at least for the basic stuff. I'm not talking about a total computer meltdown. That's definitely something for more of a professional type of person. But for those little errors that come up, it's really good to just be comfortable with those and be able to at least try to figure your way through them before reaching out to somebody else. And then being familiar with remote communication tools. This goes with the first bullet that I was talking about in terms of using software like this. But things like instant messaging, if you've ever used Google Chat, or HipChat's really popular, Slack, video and web conferencing, these, and then file sharing services. So Google Drive, Dropbox, any of those. I think OneDrive is another one. The really good thing is that all of those types of services are they either have a free level or they have a free trial. So if you're not familiar with some kind of technology that, like, oh, I've never used IM before, or I've never done file sharing, you can go out there and use either the free trial or the free version of the really popular programs that are out there for that sort of thing, and get familiar with them. And then you have a whole other thing to add to your resume. Check off that box in any employer's mind that, oh yeah, they understand how to do X, Y, and Z, at least at a basic level. And then they can really focus on your skills and your experience and what you're going to bring to the job versus like, ooh, how are they going to operate in a remote office environment? So that's really key. I would say maybe for a homework assignment after this is done, just to make a list of some different programs that you are less familiar with, that you'd like to get more familiar with. If you go to this great website, remote.co, it's remote.co. They have a questionnaire that they've talked to remote companies that hire pretty much exclusively remote employees. What are your favorite tools and technologies that you use? So you can actually get a sense of what remote teams are using and then go out and try those free versions and see how you like them and get used to them. So remote.co, and full disclosure, that's kind of a sister site of FlexJobs, but it's a really great resource. There's hundreds of interviews with remote company leaders. You can really find out about how they hire, the interview questions that they ask, like all sorts of really good tips if you're trying to get into this line of work. So where to actually search for flexible jobs? We talked about what jobs are out there a little bit. We've talked about the skills that you should really highlight when you're applying to them. Where do you actually find them? So one of the places obviously is FlexJobs. I'm a terrible salesperson, so I'm not going to talk too much about like how amazing FlexJobs is. It's a great site. And we also are offering this coupon code for 30% off of our subscription levels. We are a subscription site. That's one thing to know up front. And the reason is that we don't charge employers like a traditional job board charges employers to post their jobs. We pre-screen employers and only list the companies and jobs that are completely legitimate. And so we rule out and weed out a lot of employers. And by not charging them, we're really able to keep the database like a very clean, good database of professional companies with real flexible jobs. And so to actually fund that, since we don't have employer funding, what we do is ask job seekers to pay a subscription fee. And so it's $14.95 for 1 month, or I think it's $29.95 for 3 months and $49.95 for a year. And then you can use this promo code. Also, if there's anybody on the call who just signed up or signed up a couple weeks ago and you're going, oh, I wish I had this promo code, then if you just email feedback@flexjobs.com and let them know you were here, that's feedback@flexjobs.com, and let them know you have this promo code, they'll apply it retroactively to your subscription. So don't worry, you won't miss out. But anyway, the blog on FlexJobs is actually a free resource, and I love the blog because I've worked on it for a number of years, but also because it has really good resources for how to find flexible work. And you can also go to the job search contest area on the blog and try to win a free subscription. So it's just another way to get onto FlexJobs. But you could also, when you're looking for flexible jobs, go directly to companies' career pages, because more often than before, companies are starting to actually talk about the flexible work options that they're offering. So you'll go to their careers page and they might even have a whole section on flexible work or the way we work or work-life balance, any of those kinds of things. And you can read about what they offer. Do they get very specific on those pages? Usually not. So you're still going to want to know what types of jobs do they actually let work from home. Like, the company now does offer work from home jobs, but what do they actually let you do? But it at least gives you an idea that a company is offering that sort of work, and you can start searching in their careers page for those types of jobs. Professional and industry associations are a great way to pinpoint flexible jobs. And then asking friends, family, neighbors, your professional network. I would ask them not only what they do for a living, but how they do it. How do you work? Where are you working from? Do you have a typical schedule? Do you have a flexible schedule? Really start shifting your conversations with people when it comes to the type of work that they're doing to more of that, how are you doing that work? Because I think you might be surprised at how many people do have some type of flexibility in their career field. And then you can find out, okay, their employer is flexible if they're allowing them to do this. And then, of course, what type of work do they do? Or does the company do anything that you are actually interested in doing? And you can kind of have the more general conversation about job openings and stuff like that. But starting it again, kind of that, how do you work? Do you work from home ever? Do you have a flexible schedule? Stuff like that will actually help you pinpoint jobs that will actually travel with you. And then I always recommend on whatever job board you're on, I really like niche job boards, smaller sites. I know Google Jobs just launched, which is like the most massive job board in the universe. And so I'm sitting here going, you should use smaller sites. But the reason that I say that is typically they have cleaner job listings. So there aren't nearly as many job listings, but they're not going to be a lot of expired job listings or job listings that you just don't even want to see, that you're either not interested in or unqualified for, or that are scams or aren't flexible. You when you go to a major job board, you get millions of listings, but you really don't need to be sifting through millions of listings. So looking for smaller job boards that really cater to your career field, and then using the right keywords to pinpoint flexible jobs is really important, which is what I'm going to talk about in the next slide. So when you are on those smaller job boards and you're looking around trying to find jobs that let you work from home or let you work flexibly, the first thing you don't want to do is type in the words work from home or work at home, which is totally counterintuitive because that's how we talk about it. We say we want to work from home. We'd like to find a work from home job. But those phrases are really often used by scammers. So when you're on general job boards that don't pre-screen stuff before they list it, you're probably going to find a decent number of scams by using those keywords. And back in 2010, the FBI said, watch out for the phrase work from home. It's being used a lot by scammers. So it's something that's been happening for years. And it's just better to avoid those keywords entirely. But the good keywords to use, when you're working from home, on the left column, you'll see things like telecommuting job, remote job, virtual job, distributed team is one way that companies are starting to describe this. Home-based is another really popular one. Open nationwide is a good one. Home-shored, location agnostic. We've seen a couple companies offer it that way. They tend to be very cool companies. So if you're interested in working for like a cool startup kind of thing, they like that location agnostic key term or key phrase. And then telework, of course, is a little bit of an older term, but it's still one that a lot of companies use. If you're looking for freelance jobs specifically, that middle column is all about freelance work. There's a number of different ways to say that. And then if you're looking for a flexible schedule also, there's a bunch of different ways to say that. So flexible schedule, flexible hours, and then even general terms like work flexibility or flex work options, because those will pinpoint companies that aren't, and there are so many companies that do this, companies that don't actually in a job listing say if the job is remote or flexible in any way, but they will talk about like benefits of the company, work flexibility or work-life balance or something like that. So if you're searching for those more generic key phrases, you might pinpoint jobs that aren't shouting, yes, we're a telecommuting job, or yes, we're a flexible schedule job. But once you get into the process with that job, you'll realize, oh, okay, they actually do offer those sorts of options. So that's a good way to pinpoint the hidden ones that are out there. And then of course, part-time and half-time if you're looking for a particularly like smaller number of hours. All right, so some resume tips for flexible jobs. The first thing here, I've got a couple examples of folks who have submitted resumes that we thought did a particularly good job of highlighting their previous experience. So if you have previous remote experience, freelance experience, whatever it might be, it's really good to highlight that to make yourself stand out as somebody who's worked this way, you understand what it takes. And so the first one on top has done that. They've got right up there where you put your job title, the company's name. We removed the particulars there, but independent contractor and telecommute. Very easy. It tells the employer, when I did this job, this is how I did it. If you don't have previous experience, but you want to put on there your pertinent skills that would make you a good remote worker, the second one is a good way to do that. So I liked pertinent technical skills and tools used for effective telecommuting. And then they have that nice list of all of the programs that we just talked about that you might be going out and trying in the next couple days. So Join Me Video, it's a type of video conferencing platform. Video conferencing meeting room, Skype, FaceTime, shared drive, shared sites, and new tools adapted on a regular basis, which I think just helps to tell employers, like, I get that I need to try new things and I'm okay with that as far as technology goes. The bottom one has a really nice summary of qualifications. This person has a lot of experience. You can see they have 6 years of experience working remotely right on there, but they also put in flexible office environments, which I think is a really nice way to sum up that you have worked in places that were flexible. You didn't necessarily have an explicit flexible work agreement. You weren't allowed to work from home on XYZ days or whatever it might be, but that you are comfortable in an environment that allows flexibility. So it's kind of this nice way to say, like, yes, I get it. I've worked flexibly before. Maybe it was on and off a little bit, or like I completely understand what it takes to work this way. And so flexible office environments is just kind of a nice all-encompassing way to say that. The last bullet that they list, focused on proactive communication, whether in office or working remotely. That just brings up communication skills and that they know they need to be kind of outspoken when they work from home. They need to speak up if they have questions and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good way to put that on there without having to say, I have X number of years experience working from home or something like that. And then in the job, they do have that it was a full-time work from home position. And in this case, it's okay to say work from home when you're talking about what you've done. When you want to avoid work from home as a phrase is when you're searching online for specific job listings, if that makes sense. All right, so just a little bit on how to avoid job scams, and then I will stop talking at you and hopefully be able to answer at least a couple questions. So some warning signs of scams, which are really prevalent, especially with remote jobs. The big thing is that you can't find the company's name, or that they have a generic email address that they're asking you to apply to. So a company that uses like Gmail or Ymail or something like that, it's a red flag. If they have a really vague job description that focuses more on what you're going to get out of the job than what you're actually going to be doing in the job, that's a really big red flag. Or if there's no job description at all, it just says something like, make thousands of dollars working from home, contact us. Like that's a big red flag. Instant messaging or IM interviews. We've had this happen where people have applied for a job, they get asked to do an interview over instant messenger, and it turns out to be a scam. They're offered a job pretty much instantly, and then they're immediately asked for personal details like your social security number and bank account information and all that stuff. So I would be wary of that. We have heard of the thousands of companies that we have worked with, we've heard of 5 companies that actually are legitimate companies that do instant messenger interviews. So it's not always a definite scam, but if you get onto an instant messenger interview and they basically offer you the job instantly without asking you questions and really making it a true job interview, definitely, put up your brakes or put your brakes on and stop. Stop doing that. Take a step back and do a little bit more research before you proceed. Immediate job offers and the urgency to accept. Pretty much any scam, this is the way it works. They lure you in with what might sound like a legitimate job. They might even use a real company's name, like you can see in the 2 examples there. GE and CNBC are 2 companies that were actually used by scammers to be fake. So there was a fake GE careers website set up. They used their logo. It looked very legitimate. And they would lure people into these like fabulous work from home jobs. And because it's a well-known company name, Google was actually another one that had this happen to them. People don't think as critically. They think, oh, I know Google, I know GE, I'm going to be able to work for them. It's going to be great. And they don't really think, I should do some more research about this and just make sure that everything's okay. And then what happens is you're offered a job pretty much instantly. You have to do very little interviewing. They might not interview you at all. Sometimes they offer you a job out of the blue. So somebody contacts you on LinkedIn and says, oh, I saw your profile. You look great for this position. Do you want it? And I guarantee no company is ever just going to say, hey, take this job. We just thought you were great online. Like they're at least going to want to interview you a little bit. But that's the biggest thing is just anybody that's really pressuring you to accept a job immediately. Also not being able to give notice if you have a current job and they're saying, no, you have to start tomorrow. You can't give your 2 weeks typical notice and all that stuff. Those are all signs that people are just trying to get you to act before you think about what you're doing. So the big thing is to trust your instincts. Most of the people that I've talked to who've been scammed in a job situation will say that there were at least 1 or more times in the process of getting this quote unquote job where they felt like something was off, but they were so intent on getting a job and being able to work from home and not having to go through this job search process anymore, that they just kind of kept going with it and stopped thinking really critically about it. So trust your instincts. If something seems weird, take a step back, do some more research, and see what you can find about that company. A really easy way to spot a company is to search for whatever that company is using for their name or their job title or a snippet of the description, like the wording they're using in the description, and then the keyword scam. Do a Google search for that, and you'll see if other people have reported it online as being a scam. The Better Business Bureau does reporting on that. Now I'm trying to think of the second website. But anyway, if you do a Google search for that, you'll find any results that have come up where people have reported that company or that type of job as a scam job. And you'll go, oh, okay, I'm going to stay away from that. Okay, so this, I actually, before the presentation, I went through to some of the military spouses who've used FlexJobs. And when somebody gets a job in FlexJobs, we send them a congratulations email, but then we also ask them, what advice would you give to other people who are searching for jobs? And so these 3 pieces of advice came from actual military spouses, which I thought was particularly good for all of you guys to see. So the first one was, don't focus on finding a position in an industry that you've always been working in. Venture out and explore positions that you've always wanted to apply for. So kind of take this time to expand the things that you're looking at, expand the ideas that you have as far as jobs, and really see what's out there. And one of the easiest ways to do that is, while you're searching and you're finding job listings, don't get too narrow in your results. Do kind of broader searches. Search for random job titles that you just think sound interesting, but you're not really even sure what they do. They kind of sound like something you might be able to do, and just read job descriptions and see what's out there and how people talk about this sort of work. And then also, if you could search LinkedIn, you can search the people on LinkedIn based on job titles. So you can find people on LinkedIn who are doing that type of work and see how do they actually describe the work that they're doing on their profiles. The next one is, it took a bit of time, but I actually found exactly what I was searching for. So this one, I just like to put out there that, like, job searching is difficult. There's a lot of times it's going to be hard, and you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to wish it was over. And it does take a good amount of time. For some people, that's a few weeks. For some people, that's a few months. And for some people, that's longer. A lot of it just has to do with the type of work that you're looking for, the type of flexibility that you're looking for, a combination of flexibility. So the more types of flexibility you're throwing into what you're looking for, it might take a little bit longer to find a job that really fits all of those things. So it does take time, but you will find something. And then don't stop trying and don't get lazy about it. I liked this one. It was kind of like, just do it. Sell yourself well, create a custom cover letter for each position that tells the hiring manager exactly why you are the best pick for their open position, which we just had a webinar this week with 3 employers. And I said, I asked them the question, how can people make themselves stand out to you? What makes you actually want to call somebody and interview them? And they, to a person, each one of them said, tailored resumes and cover letters that make it very clear why you are the person for this job. Like, really linking your previous experience and your skills with exactly what the job description says, even down to using the same language if you can, if it's true about you, of course. I'm not saying just copy the job description and put it in there, even if it's not true and you don't have that experience. That would be terrible. But if you do have that experience, using their language will get you through the computer screening systems. Your keywords will get picked up better. And it just makes it easier for the recruiter to go, oh, okay, I'm crossing this off as I go. They have all these things that we're looking for. And then the second part of that, create a tailored resume to match it. I also looked up the company and did extensive research to learn as much as I could and ensure it was really the best fit, which I think in certain positions where you really want a remote job or a flexible job, researching the company ahead of time just to make sure it's going to be that right fit is a really good idea. So those are just some pieces of advice from fellow military spouses. There are some free resources on FlexJobs. I definitely invite you guys to check these out. The company guide, talk about company research, is an awesome resource. There's over 40,000 companies listed. So as you're doing your job search, if you come across a company that doesn't talk about flexibility on any site or their career site, the company's career page, and you want to know if they've ever offered flexible jobs, you can pop over to the company guide on FlexJobs. It's free, it's open to the public, and you can search for that company by name and see if they've ever posted a flexible job on our site in the past. You can see all of their previous listings. And so that will tell you, oh, they've posted telecommuting jobs or jobs with flexible schedules or something like that. So it at least lets you know, like, oh, this company doesn't talk about it publicly, but here are all their past job listings that are flexible. And there's 40,000 companies in that database, so it's a pretty good resource. And then, of course, the blog, I talked about that. Lots of resumes or articles about resumes and cover letters and how to tailor those. So I definitely recommend looking those up, and interviewing skills and all sorts of stuff. So feel free to check those out. And then, yeah, I know I've talked for 30 minutes straight. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hey, Brie, it's Liz. I just had a quick question about the scams. That seems to come up a lot of times when you're trying to find something that's work from home. What would you say? Obviously, you had that list of items to look for, but what would you say would be the #1 like scamming position?
Oh, scammy positions. Yeah. So things to stay away from. let's see, envelope stuffing. I mean, we're looking at some of the basic ones are envelope stuffing. So they say, we'll send you all these flyers and all these envelopes, and we need you to put the flyers in the envelopes and address them and like send them out. That's not a real job. Craft assembly is kind of along the same line. We'll send you a box of crafts, you assemble them and then send them back to us. That's not a real job either. And then one of the bigger ones that seems slightly more legitimate, it's one that I've heard more people kind of taken in by, is testing technology. So they'll say, we'll send you 3 laptops. We want you to plug them in, make sure they work, make sure they're functional, and then package them and then send them out to these people who just bought them. And unfortunately, it's usually stolen technology. So laptops, tablets, all that kind of stuff. So now you've participated in moving stolen goods, often across state lines and all sorts of fun stuff that get you into really big trouble. So that's another one. And then anything having to do with Western Union wire transfers. It's, they'll say, we'll send you this check. We just need you to deposit it. You keep $100 and then send us the other 900 or whatever. It's like $1,000 check. And that's basically money laundering. They're asking you to deposit a stolen check usually, or a fake check. You get to keep this money, but then your bank finds out the check is incorrect and you're on the hook for the full $1,000, and you've just sent a scam company the $900 that you thought they had given you. So anything having to do with Western Union wire transfers, moving money around for people, those are all big scams. Yeah, so those are some of the easier ones to spot, and you can just go, nope, move on, go to the next one.
Good to know. Yeah, I feel like I see those a lot. Thanks for those advertisements. If anyone has any questions for Brie, you can go ahead and type your question into the Q&A box, and I can read it out to her since with the Zoom software.
While we're waiting to see if any of them have questions, I also want to mention that Blue Star Families has on their website some career resources as well. We've also recently partnered with Hire Heroes USA to do some career coaching and assistance with your resume. So before you're, if you're in the spot right now where you need some assistance with your resume, before you go to FlexJobs, feel free to take that step. And also, if you live in Jacksonville or San Diego, there's additional career sources in those locations available for you. So just check it out.
Yeah, that's hugely helpful, especially if you've been maybe out of work for a while, you've been, at home with the kids or whatever, like having somebody who is a professional who can really jazz up your resume and gives you so much confidence to come back and be like, whoa, this is me. Like, this is what I did, when you handed them a document that probably is like, oh, I guess my experience is okay. Like it's a confidence booster, and it also really helps with applications to have a really good resume. So I like the idea.
Okay, we have a question from Megan. It says, you mentioned LinkedIn. How much have the companies you've spoken with look at the profiles of people applying for jobs?
Pretty much 100%. So pretty much any company is at least doing a Google search of you. Usually if you're on LinkedIn, your profile comes up in the top results when they do a Google search of your name. If not, it'll come up with your Facebook profile or Twitter or Pinterest, like anything that's kind of out there with your name on it. If you're not on LinkedIn, I definitely recommend it. Some companies will just go straight to LinkedIn and start searching, and basically one of the things they're trying to do is make sure that your LinkedIn history matches what you're saying on your resume, and just kind of cross-reference, verify that there's nothing out of the ordinary, because they're looking for people who are maybe trying to scam them too. By scam, I just mean like, saying something about themselves that isn't true in order to get a job. So they're just kind of cross-referencing, making sure that what you said about yourself is out there. When they look at your LinkedIn profile, they'll also look at things like any reviews that you have from other people. So previous coworkers who've left reviews. I've been actually doing that with my coworkers, and I have no intention of looking for a new job anytime soon, but just kind of compiling them while I'm thinking about it, and like offering, I'll write you a review if you write me a review, and just sharing that. So if you have even, people that you've worked with in the past or currently, just a casual, like, hey, review swap kind of thing would be nice, because employers look for that too. But yeah, I would say pretty much 100% of employers are looking on LinkedIn, or at least doing a basic Google search to find out more about you. It's a little bit creepy, but just what's happening.
All right. Any other questions? No. All right. Well, I guess we can wrap this up.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you so much, Brie.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. Thank you guys very much. This was great. Oh, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. It's brie@flexjobs.com. Just BRIE, like the cheese, at flexjobs.com. Super easy. And then I'm on Twitter a lot too. So if anybody's on Twitter, you can find me over there. It's Brie W. Reynolds. So, and of course, go to FlexJobs and check it out.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Good night.